What up? This is Myron, and you are listening or watching the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast at Down on the Docks on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar podcast of and about the Seattle Mariners that you are listening wherever the hell you want to, or if you're checking us out on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That helps out the podcast. You want that street cred, you got to be down with the Rye Bread. And of course, if you're listening on your favorite podcast place, I'm not going to judge where you're getting it from. It's fine. Hitting that subscribe helps us out a lot. Also, when we're dropping new shit, made it pretty simple. You will not fall behind. Look, the season is starting tomorrow. Or if you're listening to this on opening day, it starts today. Or if you're like catching up on the weekend, this shit just got started. This is what this episode is about. And I swear to you, this is an Ohtani P. Diddy free zone here on this episode. Probably not going to be the title, but that would be a good title, I think. Anyways, with me is Hanno up in Edmonds, Washington, along with the Ninja and let's just say parts unknown. How excited are you guys that we can stop talking about spring training ball? We can try to get away from whatever moves we liked, didn't like. We can flush last year completely away with the season starting here with this Boston series. That's what I'm excited about. But probably what I'm most excited about is never having to see those ugly spring training hats. I saw those yesterday in San Diego. Those things looked rough. What about you guys?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention too much to spring training this year, but it sure felt like it took forever. Um, so yeah, looking forward to games starting to count.
Yeah. What about you, Ninja?
I'm so excited I can barely contain myself right now. I don't know, wish we could just fast forward to, a couple days.
When we can. If you're listening to this, and look, again, like we said at the start, we don't need to fast forward if you're catching up, but the time of this recording, we're doing this Tuesday night, fresh off of the two final exhibition games of 2024. I'm pumped up. What would you say is your biggest overall take, Ninja? I know that you were out of three of us, you hung on every box score of spring training. What was your biggest takeaway? What are your overall thoughts? And then I'll get it from Hanno, and I'll bring us on home on that subject.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that jumps off the page right now is the Mariners were depending how you look at it, the number one hitting team in spring training. I can't believe I just said that out loud. We had the highest OPS and the most amount of hits in spring training.
I mean, it's spring training, so my initial thought is like, so what? But I've been down there the last few spring trainings, and there wasn't much hitting going on. So I would agree with you that the hitting has been not an issue. You have not heard any or read any like Ryan Divish articles about the hitting. You haven't seen that from anybody. That hasn't been a concern. Would you agree with that statement, Hanno?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I didn't follow too much, but I did watch the game. I know you were down there for game one in San Diego, and my take is it's noticeable that the approach is different. Read a lot through spring training about this new coach, the offensive coordinator. Even heard how the team was going through early season hitting meetings like it was the regular season, getting themselves in the groove. And it was just nice to see balls squared up. So I'm with you. Spring training means jack squat, but there's a little bit of a difference. Let's see if they can continue this as they come up to the cold Northwest.
Well, I'll tell you this. You're right. Spring training stats mean absolutely not. The work that you put in is everything. And from what I saw, again, this is my first look at them yesterday. I mean, the first fly balls I've seen of the season, first batting practice I've seen of the season. Everything is peaches and cream, as we like to say at this point. Everybody's got a chance. But yes, the squaring up of the ball in that game and the sound off that bat, I was in the second row. It definitely, you heard that sound that you want to hear, even with the outs. And we're talking Polanco specifically and Garver. Of course, you heard the Julio sounds, but the first inning of I should say yesterday Monday's game against Dylan Cease, not a fucking slouch. Ninja was begging the Mariners to get Dylan Cease. Well, I'll tell you what, the first five batters, barreled up the ball, whether they got a hit or did not. I don't think we scored in the first inning, but every ball was barreled up, and it didn't seem like they were as overly picky. They still felt patient to me. That's the approach, but a much more of a let's jump on it attack, at least in that game. And again, spring training is nothing, but that was something that I wasn't used to seeing them swing the bats like that.
So it did not remind you of Control the Zone then?
Uh, or maybe just having a better no, but maybe having more of a idea of where the fucking zone is at. How about that? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess that's what I'd say. I mean, if you go down the spring training stats, Ninja, why don't you just break out like whatever all those stats you love, the OPSs and all the good stuff that the baseball nerds want to hear right now.
If you looked at our lineup for Monday's Padres game, that was going to be probably the roster that looks close, most closely to our regular season roster. And I think we had 7 guys with an OPS over 1, in our hitting lineup that day. That, if we could keep that up, we're going to win 130 games.
Yeah, and again, with that statement, you're not going to keep that up. You're not going to win 130 games. But if this is like a sample size, if you can get 1 or 2, or let's just say 3 of these guys on the team at once doing that, you're going to be in a really good spot,
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope so. I mean, we look at this pitching staff. I think that we won't have a 3-game losing streak because of the guys we have as pitchers. I'm trying to look at it the same way as hitting. We got guys that, won't go 1, 2, 3 multiple innings like we've had in the past. So it's a lot longer, a little deeper lineup. It's very positive looking. Now they just have to do it.
Yeah, and consistently, right? Like
Yeah.
the big Julio streaks are great. The streaky players, um, they're just going to be there. That's going to be baseball. You're going to be either hot or you're not. But the dips is the things that we're always worried about, and the contagiousness of those dips is the thing that seems to be always Mariners baseball offense, especially with this group.
Yeah, I mean, in years past, especially last year, when someone was struggling, they were all struggling at the same time. We sure hope that's not the case this year, and we've gotten guys with, more veteran style that have had some good years. The health has been the major concern, but we're hoping not the whole team is slumping at the same time. You're gonna have a few guys pick each other up to where we don't get on those massive skids and games where we're not scoring runs and just maddening Mariner baseball.
It's like you want everybody to have a group mind, but when it comes to slumps, let's be individuals. Not everybody needs to do that. When things are good, everybody's got to be on the same page. We got to be doing the same damn thing. And listen, with all their talk of their offensive coordinating, and I don't know how I got to go. I don't even know how many hitting instructors and private hitting instructors. These are the numbers that I'm expecting this year. We're feeling pretty good, feeling totally different than last year spring training. But there is some injuries, none to, I would say, the offense or the lineup that we need. We know that there is a Sam Haggerty injury starting on a 10-day DL. It says non-baseball injury. I personally have not found anything of what this injury is. With that being said, let's say he's healthy. Does he make the opening day roster?
I'm gonna say no.
I'm going to also say no.
With that being said, no, because you have, like you said, Hanno, I said there's probably going to be 4 bench roster spots or depth spots on this team. And we got Zebi Zavala.
Yep.
And we have Dylan Moore. And we have Luke Rayleigh.
Or Canzone, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's what? Josh Rojas or
Yeah, or Urias, you're right.
Urias. So that's it. I don't know what Sam Haggerty's options are. I don't know if he's in the same position with Taylor Chamel, where if he doesn't make the roster, he's got to go on waivers or clear waivers.
Yeah, it's really weird. Never even heard of an injury situation like that. Heard about, if there's a death in the family or his wife's giving birth or whatever, but
COVID.
yeah, nothing. Yeah, exactly. So, one positive thing about this, and I like Sam Haggerty, he does some nice stuff, but having not having him on the roster, we've talked about so much that we'd like to see the lineup deeper, have different guys in there. Him and Moore are pretty much a lot alike. So to have the options where we aren't, you know, uh,
Yeah. We got four of the same guy. We got
yeah,
four guys that play multiple positions, and anything they do offensively is a plus. We had too many of those guys, and in fact, in the past, and we're not going to talk too much about the past anymore. We're going to try not to, but those kind of guys were also being DHs for the Mariners, and that's not something we are not going to see. Let's hope.
yes, exactly. I mean, we don't have to rely on Sam Haggerty to have, to fill out our roster, which is a nice feeling to have.
Yeah, I agree. It feels great that wow, this lineup, as much as we didn't go out and get guys, the guys that maybe we wanted, the headline guys, you're like, this was a hard team to make unless you were already guaranteed a roster spot because you've put in the work, you have the accolades on the team. I mean, besides third base and one of the corner outfield positions, that's it.
Yeah, with those guys rotating between each other, like you mentioned, at third and then the outfield, you got a backup catcher and then a utility guy and more. And I mean, that's all the room you got.
Yeah, that is a great feeling. That is a great point you made. Like you're like, it's first of all, let's hope Sam's good because Sam seems like a great guy. Everything we've seen from him, hard player, but that he is that kind of depth guy that you want to bring up when that injury happens. He can play in the infield, he can play in the outfield, he can swipe you bag. We've seen it when he can get hot. And last year, I don't think he was 100% healthy all year, coming off of the injury from the year before. So that is a good thing to have that guy come up and just be that spark plug and that jolt.
Yeah, and Demo had that crazy, side uh,
Oblique
injury
thing
that,
last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
oblique, exactly. So I totally agree. It's nice to have those guys down in the minors that you can pluck and not lose a step when your guy that's on the club has to go on the IL.
And you've defined his roles like, hey, what we thought you were, that's what you should be. Um, we ride you when you're hot. We ride you when we have multiple injuries, which can possibly happen. Knock on wood that it doesn't. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Did
we don't need you to carry us.
way. Let's get into the a pressing matter. I think is if we had a huge concern outside of going, I wonder if these guys are all going to be healthy this year. Okay, that's going to be a blanket statement for the whole season. All right, like we don't need to zero into that. We've talked about that as soon as we sign these guys, as soon as what we've seen in spring training. I think like if there was an AI uh, basing what our podcast is off of. If you're going in the off season, it would be like cheap, unhealthy. These are the kinds of things. Questionable health. Those are the things that they would zero in on it. So let's like leave that alone for a second, except for when it comes to the pitching situation here. Santos, he's not going to be pitching until the mid to possibly the end of April. I think at the time of this recording, he has to go through like one more phase before he can just start throwing again. Same thing with Brash. He's not going to be showing up probably until the end of the month. And now we get the news that Ryan Wu, at least 10-day DL, at least missing the first three starts. What concerns you?
Well, I mean, arm injuries always concern you. Um, Listening to what has been reported where Wu's injury is more just some inflammation, where it's a lot like what happened last year. Well, he'll have to shut her down and just miss a few starts. That's good news. It's nice to have a Hancock to be able to slip in there. There's not a lot of teams, when you really think about it, that just have that option to feel like, oh, we totally lost out on one of our starters. At least that's my opinion. I mean, pitching wise, not there's if we have another guy go down in the starting rotation, yeah, then it's a different story. But then on the relief side, I'm trying to look at it positive too, where this hopefully gives some other guys some chances to get their season going, get some confidence, maybe take another role in the bullpen. And then the other thing is that it'll prevent Service from running them into the ground so early.
Yeah.
I think I saw a report that there was like no structural damage, and it was just really precautionary to shut Wu down. Because it's going to be a long season. And yeah, they announced Emerson Hancock's coming up to be our 5th starter. I just saw that too. But
he's coming off of an injury from last year, so that's the part that I feel a little bit. And the thing about it is that concerns me, I'd say, is like you said, it starts off with inflammation, and then there's it seems like always with the arm stuff, the first diagnosis of it isn't where it always stops.
And hopefully it is with Wu, and this is just trying to. It's kind of like Kirby was a couple years ago, where they're trying to throttle his innings and then slowly move him up. I think that's kind of like how Wu is this year. Wu and Bryce Miller are gonna take a step up from as many innings as they pitched last year, but we still don't need to have them pitching 200 innings.
No. And you've been talking about this. We've heard about it quite a bit, as far as, and it always seems to kind of get stifled and shut down with this injury right here. Let's just say Hancock comes up here and he's really successful. One, it's a plus that you don't got to rush Wu back, right? But what do you do when Wu is ready? Are we going to see this kind of hybrid piggyback 6 starter? Is that something that we think we can see? Does also the injuries of Brash and Santos affect that as well? Where do all of these things kind of align with each other? Let's start with Hannah.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. It'll definitely help innings wise for the season, like you mentioned. So it, in a way, could be a good problem to have. It's hard to say how things will turn out, but we just want to make sure that Wu doesn't try to come back too early, and I don't think that'll be the case. They're going to watch him pretty closely, so yeah, that's just how I think about it. But I mean, I know Ninja's huge on the 6-man rotation. I just haven't heard the Mariners talk that much about it. And if they and if they did, why didn't they start the season off that way? That's just how I'm thinking.
I think it gets down to like analytics and statistics and the advantage. And you look at pitchers on 6 days rest versus 5 days rest versus 4 days rest. And it's easier said than done to get to that 6-man rotations where you actually have 6 quality starters that, are all helping each other out. 5 quality starters, even 4 quality starters is hard to get. Absolutely. Mariners have 5 right now, possibly 6. And it's just the wear and tear on the innings, on your pitchers, and it's the quality of starts that they're getting on that extra day's rest, and and everything shows up on these analytics that I don't know. Baseball it's what's coming next, and no one wants to reveal it because it's going to be a competitive advantage, or teams just can't get to the point where they have enough quality, where it's worth it. That your 6 starter is better than your bullpen.
Well, I mean, see it. You say it right there. You don't want to. What's coming next, and you don't want to show your hand. And we've seen in the last decade the phase of where there was the opener, and then we've seen the rise of the high leverage pitchers like that sort of, this is our plan of attack. So to me, the 6th starter doesn't seem that out of the realm that we might see that as more of a norm, especially when you've been seeing, again, the tailing back of pitch counts on everybody else and worrying about their health long term to keep that velocity up, to keep that strength up, high spin rate, and things like that that seem to be dominating hitters right now. I could see that happen. And to me, if I'm a pitcher on a personal level, hey, I get to perform my job a day healthier with the the extra day of rest, maybe some weeks 2 days of extra rest. I'm still getting paid the same, and maybe I can go longer, and maybe I can up those stats, and maybe personally I can make more money because now I went from being 150 strikeout pitcher a year to 200 strikeouts a year for a long sustained period of time. So I don't think, if we talk about this again throughout the season or maybe next year or the year after that, if we're lucky enough to be doing this podcast or giving a fuck anymore, I do feel like possibly that 6th starter or that hybrid starter is something that is not crazy to think about that we could see pretty soon here.
One comment I took from Ninja 2 that he mentioned was how it subtracts an extra guy out of the bullpen. The Mariners love to get max effort out of their guys for 6 innings, and then every night it seems like they're bringing out 3 or 4 guys. So if you don't have that, that's something that he brought up that caught my ear. So it's really interesting to think about.
I mean, the other stats that just jump off the page are velocity, spin rate, and accuracy on the extra day's rest, and how that translates to batting average against and contact rate of batters. And you can see it just, especially with like Luis Castillo and Kirby last year, that the batting average went from like 350 to 170. It's not a little thing.
I know that we talked last episode how big of a signing Stanek was. I think that's great too, especially to have leadership out there when some of your team leaders or your horses, your studs, are not going to be there. I think it was great. I had a little bit of time to watch him in San Diego. You can't miss him with that mullet. Like I said, I'm sure the Mariners marketing team is all over that if he gets off to a good start. But I think you're going to see his number get called quite a bit here in the first part of the season.
Oh, I agree. And I've heard, at least listen to some of the radio guys talking, that they see more of a set role for Munoz as being their 9th guy, and it's going to be nice to have that right-hander in Stanek to come out and pitch in those situations that are in the 7th or 8th inning, along with guys that we saw did it last year in Spire and Sauce, plus the new guys that we got. And I mean, the Mariners are able. Yeah, so the Mariners they'll bring some guys. I like I said, I didn't watch as much this spring, so it'll be interesting to see these new guys and how they're used and what they got.
It's probably the most question we have coming out of spring training is how is Brash and Santos and what's up with them, because those are 2 huge parts of our team, really, and to try to replace them is going to be awfully difficult. But you're going to get some faces we're not used to in the beginning of the season. Hopefully they come through for us.
Yeah, and the lineup has a lot to do with that too. If they go out there and they hit the ball and they put up something that looks like these numbers that they've had in spring training, then what are you going to do when the Seattle Mariners come looking for you?
Yeah. I got to say too, like Emerson Hancock is the 6th overall pick of, the 2020 draft. So he's like one of our, most highly touted pitchers, of those, 5 homegrowns that we have. He was supposed to be another chosen one, So he's 24 years old coming out of Georgia. It's going to be fun to watch him. I hope he has a real bounce back and shows people like this is why we drafted him number 6, and this is why he was one of the highest ranked pitchers in the nation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was just nice to see him get his shot last year. He looked good in a couple of his outings before he got nicked up. So yeah, I'm interested to see how he's going to continue his um, career and get that next chance after going on the IL to end his season last year. It's something to watch out for. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Who's one guy that you believe you're going to see a lot of this season and you're actually excited about maybe how they could fit onto this roster? Not necessarily like them, what their career is going to turn into, but let's just say inside the bubble of 2024 of like, ooh, this would be an interesting call up. I could see this really helping out the Mariners. Let's start with the Ninja.
I don't know if he made the team or not, but Austin Boff, I think the relief pitcher, he's going to get an opportunity to pitch for us. I think we were just talking about, with Brash and Santos down. I think Austin Boff is really the guy that can come up and help us win.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned. That's some and good things said about him. So yeah, that's a good possibility.
And you, Hanno?
Yeah, Samad Taylor would be a nice guy. Had a good spring, got a lot of speed, can do some different things for you. That was kind of a sneaky little. Yeah, he's a sneaky little pickup from KC. So.
Well, you stole my guy that I was like, I think I could see this guy. But I'm going to go with Ryan Bliss. We know Polanco can play third base. We've also seen Dylan Moore get injured. So you're going to have, if that happens, you're going to have to see probably another infielder come up here. So of course I'd be more excited to see what he's got to offer than maybe Haggerty. I know Haggerty plays in the outfield, but we haven't seen him. I think that's my one pick. And also 93-year-old Grandma Normo wanted to know what the deal was with this Bliss guy. So that's her pick. So I'm going to go with Grandma Norma's on there, but all three of these picks would be great. I didn't even think about from the pitching side. It just seems like we constantly bring people up through the turnstile. So I don't even think or worry about that making or breaking the team. But I do think we're going to see Samad Taylor, and I do think we're going to see Bliss. You definitely can use them, especially at the end of the season, no matter what. I think probably the first call-up would probably be Samad Taylor, just because he has a little bit more tenure, and whatever they're working on with Bliss seems to be working. I mean, and let's just say Bliss does come up and make a big impact, and let's just say Rojas can be what he was with us, and Canzone. I mean, even if he gave us what he did, he'd be a great fourth outfielder. Then I look back on this year and looking at the trade for Sewald and going, all right, that was a nice little haul.
Yeah, the Sewald trade has a lot of tentacles to it. I mean, at the time when it happened, it kind of stunk. You felt like you were taking a step back. But yeah, when you look at it now, it's looking more positive. And I mean,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was saying when Canzone comes out and wins the MVP this year, it's going to look real good.
Then it's going to look all peaches and cream for Jerry, and especially John Stanton, which is a good segue. So John Stanton, Jerry DiPoto there's a 30-minute, half an hour special that King 5, the neighbors of T-Mobile Park right across the street, did. Paul Sylvie being the Diane Sawyer in this piece. Talk to John Stanton, talk to Jerry DiPoto. I'm not going to sit here and read the transcripts out. You guys have to go watch it for yourselves. Here's my general takeaway real quick, and I'll ask you guys on it. I know, Hanno, you kind of heard more about it on like social media and rumblings, but go watch that puff piece. I'm going to call it a puff piece because after it was over with, Paul Sylvie thanked him for being transparent or something with the fans. And I'm like, great. This whole situation this whole interview would have helped out. And we've said this before on here many times. This would have helped out in December, kind of pointing at hey, when we bought into the Root Sports thing, it was like at a 3.3 million subscribers. Now we got 1.3. There was a lot of like reasons why He talked about the sustainability. I was very shocked he even dropped name dropped Kyle Seager during it, which I'm sure if Kyle Seager would be like, bitch, keep my motherfucking name out of your mouth. But then they did the Jerry DePoto interview separately. They didn't have them together. So to me, and to you guys, we've already discussed, hey, we're laying off of Jerry DePoto. We know what he has and what he doesn't have to work with. The only smart move that he did talk about, like, he's all about keeping the youth and keeping all these guys together, which is great, which is a great business model, but you're going to have to pay these guys. So what I didn't hear from him, which I would have liked to hear from him, was like, yeah, we didn't spend a lot of money because we know we're going to have to sign these guys. That line of dialogue never came out. That line of dialogue was not pushed from John Stanton, from Paul Sylvie, which I thought was pretty soft on Sylvie's part. And then Jerry DePoto's interview, I wasn't too worried about it. I thought he touched on the 54%, and Jerry DePoto's already been like, okay, the way I said that didn't make sense. It was dumb. I didn't feel like anything came out of that interview except for when he tried to push on the Jared Kelnick trading thing of like, how hard was that? And I love the way that Jerry DePoto said, they're all hard. And I like that he didn't go down that thing. We've talked about it. We commend Jerry DePoto and the Shadow, what they've done right now, and the scouting department. The offense looks way better. Did they gamble on health? Sure. But that's all they could really afford. And that's what I took from this. You guys should go check it out. I know, Ninja, you started watching it. Hanno, you told me you just kind of heard what the spin was out there. What was the spin like?
Yeah, I just kind of heard that John Stanton kind of made it sound like there was no restrictions money-wise, and a lot of these decisions were just Jerry being Jerry and wanting, because he has full control of the team on the baseball ops, and that was more of a decision by him, not that there was restrictions because all the subscriptions for Root had gone down because the cable company had switched Root Sports from the normal package up to a more premium package, and they lost a bunch of viewers. So you said it was nothing like that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this to people. It sounds like a good thing to go check out and make your own mind up. What you saw out of it. I mean, you saw something, other people saw something, and it'd be interesting when Ninja sees what I see, and then we'll come back. And I should have watched it earlier, but I'm intrigued by it.
But again, I also too, I do want to say this. I'm not defending him. He gets, like I said, he gets on there, needs a fucking haircut. Right. That just shows you how cheap he is. I think him coming on and trying to be like, look at what the team looks like out of spring training. We're actually looking at no fucking credit to him. That's what he should say. There's no credit to what I should get. No credit to this. I'm going to be around here to get credit for it. Oh, I'm also going to talk about this now because I got to sell this awesome product that we got coming out of spring training, and I got to sell tickets, and I need people to come in and pay all these bullshit prices. That's what I got from this thing. I thought it was perfectly timed. Probably crisis management person was like, don't say shit until we see what's coming out of spring training. I mean, that's kind of also not kind of, that's definitely what I got out of it. Was like, again, to start off, why wasn't this said in December? Why wasn't this said in January? Especially when you're making all this moves. We have not heard or seen anything from him since. Ninja?
I was trying to watch it, but it was really tough. It was a real tough watch, actually. It was kind of like monotoned, and like, I don't know, if you look at like the Pepperidge Farms Remembers guys, like that meme, that's what it'll remind me of,
I just want him to come out and say, we're the only freaking team that has never made the World Series. We have started building this from the ground up. We started in 2018. We've got this young core. We added some other pieces. If we get a chance, and let's say, by golly, we're in it to win the West, we're adding on, and we're going for this. That will never happen. But, just some excitement. not the
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
excuses.
Exactly. It was like a monotone, like, pre-scripted, like, thing he was reading, and it was hard to watch. And I'd rather have him, the owner, come out and be super excited about winning baseball games. And man, that would have got me pumped up. You're right,
Yeah.
Hannah.
And there's like, it's not 100%. I don't disagree with him where I go, okay, yeah, like when we're talking about the sustainability and we talk about Jerry and the 54%, right? Sure. And you look over at any of these other teams, the Dodgers, the Braves. We want to be like these teams. Well, here's what those teams do. What do, Hanno?
They add on.
Big.
They
add
sign their
on,
young players.
and they add on. So anytime you hear the whole excuse, well, if you think last year we locked up Julio and we locked up Castillo and blah blah, and you're like, that's just you're bragging about shit that you should do as a winning organization. That's normal. Like going out and getting somebody like Soto, adding people on the years before Simeon. Like I said, we're not going to lament on it, but John Stanton's the guy and put his ugly mug on King 5 right now. I would just assume not to hear from him anymore. But as far as him just saying that Jerry DiPoto, it was all up to Jerry DiPoto with the money, that's not, I didn't hear that as far as like it was all them. It was just more like they make the baseball operations. Now they interviewed Jerry DiPoto separately. What I would have loved to see, and if they wanted to break the Mariners internet, break Mariners Twitter, break Mariners Reddit, whatever, get us some fucking numbers. You get both of those guys, invite both of those guys to come onto this podcast. We'll have them both on here. Split screen. All right. If they can't get together, and like Jerry DiPoto's, it's like he's like, hey, we got to see what happened. Hey, and like we said, we're giving Jerry DiPoto, the scouting department, the people that draft, we're giving them their roses. We've already given our apologies of always blaming it on them when it's very clear why they've had to make these moves. And I feel like this King 5 thing didn't do anything for John Stanton. And I think it was a good thing for Jerry DiPoto.
Yeah, I mean, John Stanton's never going to win the argument over the fans, and I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, Scott Service had to run around the country and down into the Caribbean to meet up with his players to reassure them in the offseason, you know?
Please don't call your agents. Please just don't hold before you call your agents. I'll be on the plane down there.
Yeah. I mean, John Stanton always says he's all about winning and blah, blah, blah. But it's lip service from him.
They are going hard with this Tridents up. And that's fine. And that's cool. Great. I'm done with the CS rise, right? We're here. It's like, let's see us not shit the bed. Can't use that one, right?
No.
Tridents up is a great one, but, and this is going to be on our countdown here in the next couple of days. Trident. Hear a lot of Trident, right? And if I was Paul Sylvie, this question I would have asked John Stanton, one of them is, can we fucking hang out on the Trident deck? Can we be part of this Trident thing as a customer, as a fan of the Mariners? Because the last couple of seasons, we have not been allowed on the goddamn Trident deck. And I know this because we've walked our fucking fat asses all the way up there thinking and hearing, oh no, you can go up on the Trident. We've not been allowed up there. Who would like to jump in here?
I would. Yeah. That's where we bought our All-Star tickets and they kicked us out of there.
They did. We bought
assholes.
We got our All-Star tickets, row 5, right there on the corner, going down the 200 level, the very last 5 seats, or very last 2 seats in the 5th row. And they moved us because all of a sudden MLB was like, this is a fucking sweet spot. We're going to use it. So that was the only time, like, we bought expensive tickets just to be like, finally, we can enjoy the Trident deck. Didn't happen. Hanno?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not defending the Mariners, but I think that was more of a major league's decision
on that one.
And the other thing is I'll have to show you where the elevator is.
No, yeah, he's talking with the elevator.
Yeah.
No, but every time we've gone up there, And they said no, it's going to be open to the public more this year. No, it wasn't.
No, it's
Every
never.
time we went up there.
No, the last time I ever was in the Trident deck was game 162. Last time I was ever in the Trident deck was game 162 of the 2021 season. That's the last time I ever was up there, ever, legally,
Yeah. And it's not like they're having some big shindig and there's people all over the Trident deck. It's just like it's closed down for like 15 or 20 people.
Now, here we go with our grand finale. It's a little bit of rapid fire. We've worked you up here. This is the over-unders. I'm just gonna I'll ask you wins for the Seattle Mariners. Ninja
90.
Ninja, you got the 90. Hanno, over-under on wins for the Mariners.
85.
And I'll go with 92 wins for the Mariners this season. Division predictions. Let's go from the NL East and let's end on the AL West. That seems a little bit more climactic, right? So, Hanno, NL East.
Atlanta Braves.
Ninja, NL East.
Braves. Got to be the Braves.
I am going to go with the Atlanta Braves. NL Central. Hanno.
I'll go the beer makers, the Brewers.
Ninja?
Cubs.
I am going with the Chicago Cubs. NL West. Hanno.
The Dodgers.
Ninja?
Dodgers.
I'm also going with the Dodgers. Now let's get on to the wild card. Who is coming in with the number one wild card spot in the NL, Hanno?
Philly.
Ninja?
Philly. Yep.
I am also going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies as the number one. Wild card number 2?
San Francisco.
Ninja?
Yep. San Francisco.
And I also have number 2, the San Francisco Giants.
Basically all the same.
NL wild card number 3.
I'll go with the Cubs.
Ninja?
Take long shot and go Pirates.
And my NL wild card number 3 is going to be the San Diego Padres. Moving on to the AL. Hanno, who is your AL East champion?
I'm going to go with the New York Yankees.
Ninja?
I'm going Orioles.
And I'll go with the New York Yankees. AL Central.
You called me out for my last year's pick of picking the White Sox. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm going to go with the Twins.
Twins.
I'm going to go Royals. What that?
And I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins in the AL Central. Here we go. AL West. Who do you got, Hanno?
Level up. Houston Astros.
And Ninja, who do you got? Who do you got in the AL?
Mariners. 90-win season.
I also am going with the Seattle Mariners in the AL West. As far as wild card number 1, Hanno, who do you got? Ninja, who do you got in the AL wild card number 1?
Probably Yankees. Garrett Cole gets back.
I will go with the Baltimore Orioles. Who is your number 2 in the wild card?
The Blue Jays.
Ninja?
Probably Astros.
My number 2 is the Houston Astros. Wild card number 3, Hanno?
The world champion Texas Rangers.
Ninja?
Man, it's going to happen again?
Ninja?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to go Blue Jays.
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Royals at number 3. Let's rip it up a notch before we get into the playoffs here. Who is your AL Cy Young, Hanno?
Kevin Guzman.
Ninja?
Ooh, I'm going George Kirby.
I'm going to go with George Kirby as well.
Oh.
NL Cy Young. Or sorry, should have NL. I'll forget it. NL Cy Young.
Let's go with I was gonna go Chalk and Spencer Strider. I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna go Zach Galen.
Going Zach Wheeler out of Philly.
And I'm going to get a little bit wild here. I am going to go with the LA Dodgers, Tyler Glasnow.
I like that. I love that guy.
Sorry. Who is your NL MVP, Hanno?
Ohtani.
Ninja?
Wait, Acuna.
Ooh.
Ronald Acuna Jr.
That's a good, yeah.
I am going with Shohei. AL MVP.
All rise for the judge of Aaron Judge.
Ninja?
I'm going Juan Soto.
I'm going with one Julio Rodriguez. And I can give you my reasons why, but we said no reasons. If we're going to win the AL West, Julio has got to be the MVP. Now that we've picked everybody that's going to the dance, we got the NLCS. Who's in your NLCS?
Braves, Dodgers.
Ninja?
That's what everybody wants to see this year, so I want to see it too. Yeah, Dodgers and Braves.
What are we? Triplets here? Braves, Dodgers. ALCS. Hanno?
Yankees, Astros.
Ninja?
It's going to be like Mariners, Orioles.
And I'm going to go with the Mariners, Astros, World Series teams, and who's taking it? Hanno?
Yankees, Dodgers, and the Dodgers take it.
Ninja?
Ooh. Mariners versus Braves. Mariners win the World Series.
I'm taking Mariners, Dodgers. Mariners get embarrassed in the World Series. Hey, I'll be happy with that. That's where we're at here on the season. This is peaches and cream, Hanno. This is peaches and cream. Listen, this is a long episode.
I hope you're both right.
Yeah.
Other than you thinking the Dodgers are gonna wax them, I like Ninja's pick better.
Well,
hell yeah.
We got a long episode for everybody because we want to have the rest of the weekend off, just like any of the other fans. But make sure to go down to Tacos and Tequila, say what's up to Joe. I know that we got kind of like not a recording, but a lot of our friends and family and people are going to be down there pre-gaming. Boston Red Sox coming into town. What a way to start off the season with like one of the old historic teams. I like it. It seems like we always get paired with like Cleveland every year, or something like that. So it's kind of cool to get the Red Sox series right out the gate. Gets us on TV. Still not on ESPN, but that'll be for another show. I'm going to keep this episode, like I'll say in the intro, very long. We just did 90 minutes here, but we're excited. Don't expect this kind of effort out of us the rest of the season. but we just like this was kind of like a sit back kind of reflection, celebration, very cathartic to get us out. We got our predictions. We've said everything. I can't wait to get here in the regular season. We are going to make this show more interactive. There are going to be some updates about that, of how you can contribute to the show, get your questions on the show, get your points of views on the show. All of that is going to be happening soon. And also, we also like to do this one thing on the show that we've done every year. We make these little small windows of like, these are our check marks. This year, we're going with the first 22 games. We're going to be constantly talking about that. And when I say 22 games, that's the first time that the Mariners and that's the first time the Mariners and the Rangers are going to match up at 22 after 22 games. And after 32 games, we are going to match up with the Houston Astros. So right now we're going to be watching those first 22 games. That's going to be a good focus for us, right, Hannah? We like to do that kind of thing of like just making little goals. What's your goal that you want to go into that Atlanta series? If that's the first big picture, long-term thing. We got 22 games.
I'd like to be 2 games over 500
going into that series.
Yeah, so 12-10.
Yeah, Ninja.
17-5. So I said
You want
Alright.
us to be 17-5.
16-6. Yeah, 10 games over 500.
Yeah, I'd like to see, I'd like to see like a 13-9 going into that, 3 or 4 games over that, and that's going to be our first check mark for our regular listeners. We're in about the first 22 games. All right. So, anyways, with that being said, Hannah, you know what time it is. Charge.
Woke up the dogs after that one.
Whoa.